Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of Poker Inferno. Today's contestant is Kevin. You may remember Kevin from such videos as Exploits and Site Selection Saved the Student's Game. So dramatic. Man, the block capitals. In that video, Kevin was explaining that he was working his way through grades 1, 2, and E of the Carrot Poker School, the Exploit Mass Data grade. That is the way to do things if you are working through our school and you've got to about, I'd say, grade 1 lecture 9 or grade 2 lecture 2, somewhere within that band of lectures. There's 10 in each grade. What you're going to want to do is start mixing in grade E. Exploits are incredibly important. You need to know where pool is over bluffing, under bluffing, over folding, under folding, etc. That's where the real money is made. What really impressed me in this Poker Inferno sweat session was how well Kevin had melded everything together. Since he picked up the Carrot Poker School a year and a bit ago, he's moved up stakes multiple times, is now a sensei in our Discord group giving feedback on people's hands, and just has a really good thought process, a really solid thought process. I think you'll see what I mean when you watch this video. Kevin is an example of what can happen if you have the right material, the right work ethic, you surround yourself with the right people, and you're just super curious about the game. He's always been mega enthusiastic and passionate, and I think that comes across in today's session. Hope you enjoy it. It's carrotcorner.com for everything else from us. Let's get into this episode of Poker Inferno. All right, another day, another episode of Poker Inferno. In the hot seat today, we have Kevin. Welcome to the show, man. How is it going?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pete. Really nice to be here again. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's quite early here in Germany, but I guess it's also in the UK.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes later than the first time we tried to record this, and you were card dead for literally 15 minutes straight. Like, we've just been folding for like 15 minutes. We've now pressed record again. Let's get some interesting spots. Let's sit in to this pool. Let's navigate the world of Halloween GG. You're watching this in November. It's not Halloween anymore, but you can see Elkie ominously lurking behind a gravestone there. Let's get at it. Let's get some spots. So for a bit of context,
there we go.
Yep, Kevin has taken the full Carrot Poker School a while ago. He was playing like 25 and L last time he was sort of on the channel on streams and stuff like that. I believe you're on one video since then, and now your regular game is 100, although you don't normally play on GG Poker. All right, let's get at it with this hand.
All right. We raised pre-flop. We got two callers. Ace King deuce mono. I think I'm going to check. This is a recreational player. He half pots snap. Yeah, I think playability on future streets is terrible, so I'm just going to fold right away.
Yep, I really, really like it. I think this is the sort of fold that when you're battle hardened, you just learn that when you call there, you are not getting 25% of the pot in EV realization, because you're just going to end up folding at some point in the hand or just losing to a better hand, and people are just leading really linear, equity driven. You're either way behind or slightly ahead. And the times you are slightly ahead, you still end up folding a ton. That's just the way it goes in that spot. So yeah, great fold to start things off today.
There we go. Multi-way pot again. King for deuce. Start with a small bet. I see right now my hotkeys are a bit strange because okay, never mind. Oh, this is a really big raise. Yeah, I'm just going to fold actually. Exploitative. Usually this is a call. But yeah. Do you want to talk about this hand?
Yep, absolutely. And okay, let's talk about this Ace King. So when I first faced this bet, when we first faced this flop raise, I was like, okay, Ace King is like an obvious continue to a raise, and it was like a very sort of black and white general broad strokes thought process that I had. And then I was just like, hold on a minute, you hovered over the player, they were like 17-11, they looked pretty tight so far, and I sort of asked myself, I was like, what is this player's actual range in this spot? And I decided that it was probably like very high equity draws that are like going to go with it, and sets and 2-pair. And then I was like, well, we have a bluff catcher. We have a bluff catcher against a colossal sized raise from a tight looking player in a 3-way pot. What is their motivation for making it 18 big blinds on the flop? It's really, most of the time, it's that they just have a monstrous hand and they're like freaking out and trying to put as much money into the pot as possible on a two-tone board. I love this fold. I think so many players here get caught up in the fact that they have ace-king. Not just the king, but ace-king. And there will be people in the comment section right now that are literally typing away on their stupid little grubby keyboards with bits of toast stuck between the keys, going, "Oh, you can't fold ace-king, it's too far up." And the problem with that is that it's stupid. Because you have a bluff catcher. No one's raising, no tight-looking player here is raising king-queen to that sizing. So
Yeah,
regardless
exactly.
of whether you have ace-king or king-9 or king-5, you have a bluff catcher in a spot that's like basically just unbluffed, equity-driven, and very set in 2-pair heavy. Villain can have deuce 4 suited, king 4 suited, king deuce suited, deuces and 4s, and that's enough combos that it's probably the bulk of their range. And if every once in a while we run into someone that just lost their shit with, I don't know, 8-9 of clubs or something, I'm not even that upset because it's going to be rare and that hand has some equity anyway. Two really, really good folds to start us off today, Kevin. I like the way that we're playing. I like the fold to the lion that we've started off with today.
Yeah, I'm also just one word on that hand. I also think I rather continue ace-x of clubs or really good draws, although there are not many good draws on this board, than ace-king, because we are either way ahead or way behind, or not way ahead, but maybe like 40-60 or something. So
yeah,
60-40. So
yeah, if we have a draw here, like a nutted draw of some sort, then yeah, we'd sooner call that because at least we're live. But even like I think it even gets quite close here. Like if you have like queen 10 of clubs, again, it's like
I think I'm just going to fold.
I think we're going to fold because our realizability is so low, right? Like even with queen 10 of clubs here, if we call the flop raise, one, we're not drawing to the nuts. So if villain does have like the aforementioned ace 5 of clubs or ace 3 of clubs or like one of these combo draws, I honestly think is like way more likely than any other draw here if there is going to be a draw in this range. Then, you know, we don't even, like, we're dead. And then if we do run into a set or 2-pair, we're not getting enough immediate realizability because we're going to face a turn bet. It's not like we're seeing turn and river here, so we can't just count all of our equity. We're incredibly likely to face a gigantic turn bet when we face this raise. Like, if you plug this into a solver, the solver will raise, like, a really polar range on the flop, and then on the turn, they'll have, like, a decent amount of check, probably, or some check at least. Whereas, like, the human here is probably betting turn 80-90% of the time plus when they've made this massive raise sizing on the flop. Okay, lovely hand. Nice play so far. Let's get back in there.
Again, king for deuce, two-tone. Yeah, I start with a small c-bet on this board. Could also check with the 400 deuce, but I think we gain more fold equity than we should.
Yep, and real quick on that one, they're probably under raising, over folding. On the turn, they're probably over leading as well, so ace-6 is a little bit flimsy. It's not the most robust to check and face too high of a probe frequency from this pool, so definitely like the bet there. Hey guys, Pete from the future here. Just a quick warning for you. During this video, you're going to see something pretty disturbing. Throughout Halloween, GG Poker really messed up. They made the Jack of Spades look like utter shit. Look at the state of that. Daniel Negreanu, how did you let this happen? Be honest, were you eating a sandwich and not really checking things over properly? You can't be all loosey-goosey eating a sandwich. Everything you do at the poker table conveys information. Now let's get back to the video.
Versus 2.5 is the fold. I think versus min, we're going to defend king 10 off. Ah, the Jack of Spades is coming. Yeah, I think I'm going to block. Anti-fast raise. That's interesting. Mm. Yeah, again, not quite sure. We can continue here, I think, but it's close.
So let's just start with like, what is your turn probe kind of approach in these situations? Like, you've got Jack turn here. How are you building your turn probe sort of strategy?
So sizing wise, I think I'm going to build probably blocks and B75. If I choose one sizing, I'm only going for block. And yeah, I think on the Jack, I'm going to probe Jack X for sure. Some good 8x, probably some good combo stuff like um yeah, some of course draws 10-9, 7-6, and spade draws, high spade draws as well, probably also low spade draws. Yeah, that's my approach here.
Yeah, okay. So I think in practice, I feel like I really do want a bigger bet against the human here. And I think the reason for that is that like a strategy of just B33, that's probably like an okay simplification in theory that doesn't really cost you anything. And I agree that like in theory there's going to be a B75 and a B33 going on. Against a human, I think like even though you did get raised in this one hand, getting raised on this node is like much rarer than it is in theory. I don't think it's happening very often. And so if we do have like sets and flushes and stuff here, I feel a little bit squeamish at 100 NL Russian cash about only leading 33% of the pot, because I do feel like you're just not going to get enough raises. And maybe not enough calls either. I can see certain hands here that are like callable in GTO just like struggling and folding on this board as well. So I think I'd mainly use B75 here when I bet, but with your hand, I have no problem at all with this going into either sizing. I don't really care what we do. When we face the raise, it's pretty interesting. Like, what do you think Villain's range is for raising turn here? Let's try and do a bit of hand reading. What's pulled up to here?
Yeah, that's also interesting, and what I what I was thinking of in game. I think probably good Jack X made flushes raising sometimes, especially lower flushes. I think many people on 100 Russian Cash understands that this is a board on the flop that they shouldn't bet very often. So I think they have flushes in range. Yeah, I don't think they raise like draws that they can be dead with, like 10-9 of hearts or something. Okay, we blocked that, but 10-9 of clubs, 7-6 themselves. I don't think that's happening on that node. So I think it's around Jack X plus and some combo draws with offsuit spade cards.
Yeah,
And flushes, of course.
yeah, my feeling is that we really don't get attacked here very often at all. So when we do get raised, it's mainly going to be equity driven and value heavy and probably underbluffed on a flush turn. I just don't think it's common for people to just say, oh, I'm going to raise you with King, Queen of Hearts here. And I think there would be a lot of raises like that in Equilibrium that are, some of them are going to be Spade X and some of them are going to be straight draw or just overcard like King, Queen or something maybe, or Ace 4 or something like this. So yeah, I don't think the low equity raises are happening enough. For that reason, I guess I'm kind of shying a little bit away from 3-betting, because I do think your hand makes an okay 3-bet at Equilibrium. Like, you would probably have some amount of King X of Spades, Ace X of Spades, like semi-bluff hands in there as a 3-bet, and they would need to be really high equity, because when you're attacking a more polarized aggressive line, like a raise or a big bet, the standards are going to go up there. And if you do like get 4-bet or get 3-bet on the turn, which I don't think will happen really ever, it would be fine to just fold the King of Spades. So I think it's the sort of hand that's like okay to 3-bet with in theory. I definitely want to shy away from that a bit in practice, although I am wondering how often people actually check back a flush draw on the flop in this pool. I don't think it's that often, and so it could be that Villain's range here is like some Jack X, but I also think Jack X is very likely just to call on the 3 flush turn and just get passive. So overall, I'm going to rule out 3-bet for exploitative reasons, because I think the spot is just a bit stronger and a bit underbluffed. And I think I'm probably still happy calling for the reason that you are beating some bluffs still. You have some reasonable redraw. but I do think it gets really close, actually, given that their range is just stronger than normal here. But yeah, I think calling is all right. Like it's unclear to me whether calling is winning. It feels like really, really close. It feels really close between all three options in theory, but I don't think fold would be a thing in theory. But I think as an exploit, it's probably all right in this really passive nitty pool.
King, Queen, 5. I'm definitely going to c-bet this. I think we face too many floats when check. And this is, even a recreational understands this is a pretty good board for us. Ace of hearts on the turn. That's interesting now. I think I actually go for it and block again and go huge on the river on a brick. Yeah, that's a brick actually. Yeah, I'm going to shove this. I think we get enough folds from King, Jack, King 10, Queen, Jack, Queen 10 and stuff. And a lot of raising is going on the turn from 2-pair. And straights and sets and stuff.
Why is he tanking? God, what a scare for Halloween. I was like, my God, is he gonna just snap us with some stationary hand? All right, yeah, that's a really cool hand. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of like a plan, right? Like the difference between a line and a plan is that a line is sort of something we evaluate just in isolation, where we're like, it's winning to bluff the river as we did on the river there, or I'm gonna bet the flop or whatever. And then a plan is I'm gonna play a certain way across two nodes because I think the opponent's going to be unbalanced across those two nodes overall. That actually just works out really well for me exploitatively. So yeah, I can see the turn bet is probably like a bit dicey with sevens in isolation, like when we think about it in a vacuum, because I think the fold equity here is just really, really quite low. That said, some recreationals are going to just like call flop with a bunch of 5x here. They're going to have like some 6s and 8s and 9s and stuff like that, maybe that they fold on the turn, so it's probably not terrible. But I think my feeling on the turn is that with this hand we just check, take the showdown against 5x, 6s, 4s. I think there's just like more showdown than you would think here. And moreover, that showdown is actually more realizable than you would think, because recreationals are of course missing this river blunder theorem bluff where they like have to bluff the bottom of their range. Like if he calls here with a 5 and you check the river, he's probably meant to turn the 5 into a bluff, right? But I don't think that's really ever happening. So the showdown value on the check branch is better, and that's an exploit that we definitely want to keep in mind in spots like this. That said, if I'm ever going to aggress on the turn, I absolutely love the way you've done it here. This is like what my border collie would do with our ducks in our garden and herd them into a certain enclosure, right? So you're kind of betting small, herding the opponent's range, causing that to split, manipulating it like some kind of puppet master mastermind. Because yeah, recreational players on a wet board like this are going to raise off their good stuff. To quote Hungry Horse Poker, that's the guy's actual name, is Hungry. His first name is Hungry and his second name is Horse. That's his name, by the way.
That's
And
reasonable.
he says that a lot, right? They're going to raise off their good stuff as an exploit against live players, who we all know have a poker IQ of 14. But it works online against like the limper on the button here as well. And yeah, they're gonna siphon their range, start raising Jack 10, Ace Queen, etc. By the time they reach the river, I think they are very capped. You have all the ingredients of bluffing versus humans here for a very big sizing. One, you have an absolutely like capped villain range. Two, your line is intimidating to large parts of the opponent's range. And three, there's lots of stuff that you could be perceived to have for value. So all of those things are true. I actually love this. I love this river shove. I think this river shove is really, really good. If there's any criticism at all, it's just the usual one when it comes to elasticity, which is like, If you go a bit smaller, do you get the same fold equity? And it's worth asking that question, because if this stack was a bit deeper, like 73, I think 73 would be a bad sizing. And I think you could just go like 2x pot or something and achieve everything you need to achieve when you're bluffing. When it's 58, it does get a little bit murkier, and maybe all in is fine, and there is some elasticity there between some other overbet. But I just always raise the question of, like, is there a smaller overbet size that still gets the job done, assuming fish are mostly inelastic? But hey, in spirit, this hand is fantastic. If this was a gauntlet hand, I would give this a pretty high score, because even though I probably would check the turn with this exact combo, I do really love the fact that you jammed the river as played, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that plan of, like, blocking turn jamming river here is actually just a lot better than I think it is. So yeah, really nice.
Yeah, thank you. Just one comment on river sizing. I also thought about going smaller, but it's exactly 2x pot that he has behind. So I thought like 2x pot is the sizing I would use if this would be a 100 big blind stack. So I think 2x pot is the way to go here, or like something close to that at least.
Yeah, very reasonable. But yeah, the main point there is just the manipulation of the opponent's range, the sort of funneling of them into the enclosures we want them to be in, and then taking advantage of that.
Yeah, for the sake of this, I'm going to defend pocket eights. And we flop the set. Let's go.
That is the Jack of Spades, by the way, for anyone that can't tell what that monstrosity is. It's a Halloween-themed card.
Yeah, I'm going to raise right away. So many cards that are bad facing on the turn. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, really, really clear raise. A few reasons for this. So you're going to be facing under bluffing almost certainly on a board like this, and at these stakes, like if you call here, Jack 9-8 is not the sort of board people apply pressure on. I mean, they underbluff 3-bet pots in early position in general. That is just an underbluff node because people just have so many overpairs and stuff like that, and their betting range on the turn is going to be really quite linear, equity driven, overpair heavy. And if those are the hands we're getting value from when we slow play and the turn is safe, we need to put more money in case the turn isn't safe, right? Because we still make that money on the flop by raising. The part of range you're really maximizing against when you slow play, and I know that you know this, Kevin, but for the audience's sake, is the air region, the low EV bluff region. So when we don't think that's aggressing much later, we're less incentivized to go into that line where we try to make money from that stuff, and we're more incentivized to try and make money from the good stuff before they have a reason to check back. The other thing is when you're out of position in a 3-bet pot, the urgency gets really, really high on boards like this because the check node lands you on the river in a really small pot, and the check node is happening really often on lots of turn cards, even with hands that villain would call a flop raise with. So very, very clear raise. If you don't raise here, guys, that's okay. You're still learning poker. We'll get there. We'll work on it. Right, let's get back in there and play another hand. Okay, tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. So going to range bet the spot on flop. In reality, on the turn, I think my sizing would be overbet or check. I think deuces. Yeah, I think we could. I think it's close to overbet deuces, but just going to check right here. I think 9x is going to fold with overbet. There are not that many draws on the turn on the flop anyway. That can hold on a turn now. Yeah, probably this might be an overbet. But we have all the Jack 10 Queen Jack region as well. Yeah, it's interesting. Turn is interesting.
Okay, and now on to pocket deuces. We have the option of obviously going for like overbets, big bets on this node. I think the main point here is that when we're early position, we do want to start including a lot of these underpairs. When you're late position, you don't really want to do that as much because the hand just has a little bit more showdown, and obviously you have way more other random hands in your range to start bluffing with. And then when we get to the river on this node, I think the fact that the opponent has already filtered by calling flop is kind of devastating for us here. I don't know if they're floating enough of the air hands they would need to float to make us indifferent on the river. I do think half pot is a really overbluff sizing in general, so they're quite unlikely to do that with a king. because it looks pretty damn thin. They may go smaller or check a king. With a 9, they're probably going bigger. They do have a ton of ace-x here. They're kind of saying they have an ace here. They do have some bluffs like 4, 5, you know, stuff like this. But if they're not calling the flop enough with like the jack 10 of spades, the queen 10 of hearts, stuff like this, they could easily just end up under bluffing the river even for half pot. So while I'm a big fan of calling against half pot stabs a lot of the time on these nodes, this super dry ace high board just puts a ton of ace-x in their range and not that much air, and so I think folding deuces here is reasonable. This is a good bluff catcher though in theory, because we block ace deuce suited and we have unblockers to like all of the stuff they're floating flop with, and then bluffing like the 4-5, like the jack 10, queen jack, queen 10 combos, stuff like that. But yeah, just wanted to point those two things out for this hand.
Yep. Cool. All right, we got a free bet and a cold call. Yeah, I think I'll just come along with a call. Yeah. I think 4-bet is not that attractive as a guy that's free bet 6% so far. And we fold on the flop. We can probably also fold pre-flop, but let's discuss this, I would say.
Yeah, I think I agree that calling is likely to be highest EV here. I do think being in the hand at these pot odds with a suited Broadway is important. I wouldn't fold. Like, yes, it's high rake, but you're three-way with a recreational player involved, getting really good pot odds. There is the, you know, you're also closing the action, right? So there's no danger of like the other guy reopening or something. So I'm definitely calling pre-flop here. When it comes to 4-betting, you've got kind of two things to get through. You've got the tight-looking guy to get through, and then you've also got the cold caller, who might have cold called ace king or jacks or queens and might just not want to fold to your 4-bet. If the cold caller's really loose, you have a problem that he will just like call random hands to your 4-bet, and if he's really tight, you have the problem that he just has queens or ace king a lot. Yeah. So either way, it's kind of like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place here vis-a-vis 4-betting, and you don't really want to 4-bet. I think you just want to call here. Usually you lose the pot, but you're getting a great price to be in it to win it against a recreational player. And yeah, I think king 10 suit, it's just about a call. Yep.
Yeah. Just one question, because I also face this sometimes on my regular sites. What do you think about if we have a hand to 4-bet with? What do you think about just jamming here?
I think it's reasonable for sure, yeah. If I was gonna jam here, I'd like to do it with some hand that gets a little bit of useful fold equity, like queens, kings, or ace king. I wouldn't want to do it with aces, but I think with specifically combos like queens, some very, very good things can happen where you shove two queens and the recreational calls with jacks, tens, nines, or the reg calls with jacks, tens, nines because they put you on ace king. Or if you shove ace king, sometimes it goes the other way and like the reg folds, you know, tens because they're scared or whatever. I think jam's a really nice play at this SPR against the fish and a really nice way of like cleaning up a bunch of equity and getting some good things to happen. Just wouldn't do it with aces.
Yeah, I think on the other side, I usually do it with queens and kings and mix some ace king in, and aces and other stuff I usually 4-bet.
Yeah, I like it. Good plan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 8-7 deuce, two-tone. I think I play big bets or checks only. I think with this hand we can do both, but I decided to check this time. Ace of cups on the turn and a snap check from villain. I think I just go for the B75 as a bluff here. Pure exploit on the timing.
Yeah, I don't even think it's like too ridiculous to do this anyway. So when you're building the big c-bet strategy on the flop here, we had a video come out a while back that was about how to use big flop c-bets. And the number one mistake, I think, is people checking hands like this automatically. Now, in fairness, you did sort of admit that you could bet this hand and you could check this hand, and you decided to check this hand this time. But we should just be aware that when we're building that big c-bet strategy, we have a lot of different buckets of our range, right? We have obviously the high EV bluffs like the 10-9s and the gut shots and the jack 10s and the flush draws. the 5-6 suited or whatever, but we also just have a lot of hands like Queen 9, King 9, these sort of lurking cards that are sort of lurking around the board that have backdoor straight draws, good pair draws over cards, but not that much showdown value. These are going to be betting really, really often. So you can imagine a hand like Ace Jack here will check quite often because it's kind of like that upper middle hand that just wants to check a lot. But a hand like King 9 or Queen 9 will do a ton of betting here relative to the global frequency, which won't be that high. Like globally, your range will be betting like 40% of the time or less, and this hand might be betting about that or a little bit more. But yeah, I do think these hands are much better to bet with than you would think, and the main trap here is people comparing these to other hands in their range when they should be comparing bet and check with the hand in question. On the turn, yeah, the snap check is really, really telling. Of course, it is a spot where villains should be checking the vast majority of their range and only leading big and infrequently. But in real life, when people snap check here, it's extremely revealing. We talk about this in Weapons of War when we talk about the Swiss Army knife of delayed c-betting and the certain spots we'd want to build a B33, a B75, or an overbet. This is definitely a board where if you reopen, you just want to use B75 because the opponent, in theory, is still polarized and uncapped, and you just have not such a big nut advantage here, and most of the hands you want to open with on the turn or reopen with are just going to be like high equity, but not totally nutted, a lot of them, so B75 makes sense. And just B75ing this hand always as an exploit and not rolling and not worrying about it is definitely good. So I really like the way that you've played this hand. I really like the way you're thinking about the game. Every time I see you, you just seem to be stronger than the time before, which is exactly what you want to see in the game of a former student and someone that's been, you know, subscribed to your methodology for a long time. So it feels really quite great to see your game just moving upward all the time, Kevin, and your thought process just becoming more succinct and more to the point and like EV searching. So really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm just going to call, but I wouldn't rule out free bet completely versus small sizing. Yeah, I'm just going to fold this one.
On flop here, we face a 1 big blind bet. I just wonder whether it's winning to raise to like 3.8 big blinds here and or call and just like bluff later. I feel like at 4-1, needing 20% pot share with a gutter, we can probably just peel and villain will be relatively transparent about what they have. Or we can make a small raise and again expect it to be like an overfold in the sort of pair no diamond department or something like that. So I don't think I'm a fan of this flop fold. I think this is just an opportunity to exploit pool where they would actually bet bigger with a lot of the good hands in their range, and the small c bet here isn't likely to be some reg, you know, who min opened pre and then bet small because they understand that fifth pot's the right sizing for this texture. It's more likely to be bet size equals hand strength, and therefore don't think folding should really be on the cards here with many hands in our range, especially not a gutter. This is the first thing today, though, that I've actually like pulled you up for, and I don't think it's a huge deal, but yeah, just a bit more hunger for sort of exploits on the flop there, perhaps could be the thing. But yeah, overall, really great job. I think you played well in this session. We didn't have too many ridiculously exciting hands, but we had a lot of really like instructive nitty-gritty stuff come up, so hopefully this has still been a useful watch for you guys. And yeah, great job in bringing your game onto the next level. What would you say are, having gone from sort of 25 NL to 100 NL now and having had some success, what would you say are a couple of tips you could give the audience for getting to this stake if they're at a similar part of their poker journey?
I would have 2 tips. The first one is definitely buy grade E. So buy the full CPS. I've been going through grade 1 and 2 multiple times. Actually didn't start grade 3 yet because I want to have some content when I move up higher and higher stakes, and I think up to this point where I'm now in my poker career, grade 2 is definitely the course that you want to have implemented into your game, and therefore it's worth to watch it multiple times, because if you watch it one time, you cannot extract all the good content that's in there. And definitely watch grade E and do exploit work, because it's very good and necessary to know the theory, but you have to know exploits, otherwise you lost so much money on the way playing and moving forward. And the second thing I've been working on recently as well is the mental part of the game. Not only dealing with downswings, because this is the fact that you always hear first, but having routines, also routines for pre and post session, routines during your session. Really try to focus all of your capacities on poker if you want to become better, or even try to aim for a profession later on. The mental game is definitely very, very important when you move up in stakes, because this is money you usually you flip, like on 100 NL, you flip for $200 every time you get it in preflop, and this is a lot of money when you come from playing 10 NL. So this is really a big factor, and you don't have to underestimate this one, I think.
Yeah, awesome advice. Yeah, okay, thanks again for sharing that with everyone. I definitely agree, by the way, that grade 3 is a course to save until, you know, you've had a bit of success, you've moved up a bit, you've worked through grade 1 and 2. Although we sell the whole thing together as one package in the CPS Full Scholarship, we don't expect anyone to be like, I'm playing 10NL and I'm on grade 3 lecture 8. When I hear that, I'm always like, oh no, like this has gone wrong. So yeah, really good point. And then the mental game, yeah, I just cannot stress that enough either. Like, it's such a ridiculous source of EV. Exploits, solid study material, and mental game. Don't know if I could have said it any better myself. These are definitely 3 things you guys should do. If you like our stuff, it's carrotcorner.com for all of that stuff that Kevin has worked through if you wanted to follow the same trajectory. And we will have more people on soon in Poker Inferno. Ready to do some flames. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks again, Kevin, and we'll talk to you later on the channel, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again. And yeah, bye and see you soon.
All right, bye, guys.